back and bigger than ever. It's the unofficial 40 from Soonerscoop.com. Now, here's the entire Sooner Scoop crew. Carrie, Josh, Eddie, and Bob.
All right, we are back. It is the unofficial 40 podcast right here at Soonerscoop.com. We've got the entire crew, as it is portal season mania right now. We got plenty to talk about on that front. I know a lot of people wondering who else could be going, but we can tell you who's gone so far. We've got some Senior Bowl invites going out, things like that today. And we're coming off the end of the regular season. I know Bob's joining us for the first time, be able to get some of his thoughts there. But obviously some recruiting news on the front page of Sooner Scoop today. We've got the latest on Peyton Bowen and from the Notre Dame side of things. And, really, I guess we should start there. Just hallelujah for all the recruiting nuts. We're going to start with recruiting today.
Are we sure this isn't the Bethany postgame show? Bethany High School season wrap-up show.
Well, we got all kinds of noise going on outside.
That was God. What was that?
I think it's just the AC guys got their getting stuff out of their
Look out. AC today, all right?
It's probably heater guys. AC, HVAC. I guess that's the best way to put it. So, we can start, Bob. If you want to kind of chime in on what you saw over the weekend in Lubbock, how disappointing it was. I know you almost died. Once again, another Scoop staffer goes on the road and is almost killed.
Yeah, just wasn't pretty. But no, it was just, I think we learned after the Baylor game that the team was never going to have a consistent outing, and you just had to take the good with the bad and roll with it the entire way, and that's what happened again, up 24-6, and then it's 24-23 before you even blink, and they're in for a battle, and they've never won a one-possession game the entire season, so why would that start Saturday in Lubbock? So now your only hope is that the guys who stay and who are going to be back for the second year under Venables, that they're not mentally, physically broken from everything, and that they can all just sort of bounce back and take the lumps from 2022 so that you're better in 2023 and going beyond.
Should we just have a seance? Is that what you're suggesting? Get out the Ouija board. You guys ever do that? Get out the Ouija board when you're in high school?
I never did.
First night
I was smoking weed and I didn't even do that.
The first night of drinking, me and my buddy.
The Ouija board. Now, that's like one of those weird, like, triangular things, right?
Yeah, well, it's a board with letters on it, and then you have this thing in the middle, and you all put your hands on it. And it, like, guides
you.
Ask it questions.
It guides you to the answers.
Yeah, we got first night
it's a
ever
different type of drugs
in
in Durant. Or Duncan, excuse me. I always get the two D's mixed up.
One's Southwest, one's Southeast.
I know, and it shouldn't be that way.
You've been to at least one of them.
I've been to both. I've been down to Durant before, coming up on what is that, 75 out of Dallas.
Have you been to a Duncan Demon football game before?
No, I've never been to a Duncan football game. No,
Halliburton Stadium.
I don't think I've been to the stadium. Mm-hmm. We drove by it a couple times, but I've never been inside of the stadium. I don't think.
So anyway, I think you kind of hope maybe the transfer portal helps you out to weed out some of those guys that just might not be like. Let's start with like Jordan Mukes. I mean, he's a guy, and Bob, you can kind of tell the story there about like what the plan was for him and
because he was all those guys that redshirt and stuff. At least usually they're part of the team. Like he was never ever even on the sideline, just like dressed up in like sweatpants.
Same was for Corey Robertson too.
Yeah, but he doesn't have a redshirt year, so I'm not sure what's going on with Corey there. But when it came to Jordan Mukes, that they made that decision pretty early. It's like, okay, you're not gonna be a safety. We're gonna start grooming you for Cheetah. Deshaun White's going to be gone. Justin Harrington could still be here, but we got to get that position. That's got to have a 3-4 deep, not just one person that has to play 100 snaps every single game. And I'm not sure if he didn't take to it or if the coaches didn't like how he was getting it. But obviously that news came out Tuesday that he's not going to hit the portal. We've got guys like Kevontae Henry and Clayton Smith who haven't made any announcements, but they're off the roster. So you got to think they're gone, although Jordan Mukes is still on the roster. But so that really tells you something. If Clayton and Cavante are, not on the roster, so you got to think they're, you don't have to worry about them going forward, and just, portal season's here. Let the chaos, do what it's going to do.
I think I have a good idea, but I don't think I'm ready. Like, just how many names are going to be in there. You saw all the names come out of Austin. Mac Brown's talking about, like, this is going to be historic as far as the amount of guys that are in the portal by, a week from now when it opens up on Monday.
Okay, so here's something. I think this is kind of one of those things, because all my friends are hitting me up about, quarterbacks in the portal and stuff, and we've said all along, they're not going to go to the portal. Hudson Card was the one guy that was brought up. There was another good quarterback.
Drones from Baylor just went in today.
I saw that. That was right before we started.
Yep.
It was somebody that was a backup to a really good quarterback somewhere. I can't remember. But anyway, here's my question. Like, I know that you've got Dillon Gabriel and you've got Jackson Arnold. You don't want to – what is it? You don't want to upset the apple cart? Is that the phrase?
Yeah.
But here's my thinking. Maybe you have to make the hard decision and say – and look, we all know you can't just kick a kid out, but we've seen their backup quarterback. It's not any good, and everybody else is worse behind him. Why don't you go into the transfer and bring a kid? And you know what? Maybe that's just a signal to Davis Bell. You don't have to go to him and say, you don't have a spot here, but he's going to see it for himself. I mean, I don't know. He's not subject. He could transfer again, right? Like the 1 year transfer thing reset.
Well, I mean, he's got to be a grad transfer. Right? I mean, he was like a 2018 or 2019 class guy. He's got to be a grad transfer, so he wouldn't have to worry about that. I think the only thing.
But you made a mistake with General Booty too, because I mean, if he can't get on the field, he's worse.
I just got the.
So what are you doing? Like just clean house and go get a quarterback.
I think the one move is
that's common sense to me.
If Nick Evers hit the portal, then I think they would do something. That would be the one I think would trigger them to try to make sure they have.
Do you think that he's not going to you think he thinks he can stick around and beat out Jackson Arnold?
I guess that's the biggest question mark, isn't it? I mean, because if you're going to go after a quarterback,
they have that 15-day after spring too.
Sure.
So you can leave then.
Yep. Yeah.
But you're going to miss out on a quarterback now because
who's going to come in though?
Get sacked. I mean, it's got to be somebody better than Davis Bevel and General Booty.
But who's signing up? Like, if you're going after a quarterback,
they're
right back into the spot.
I'm going to find a starting spot.
They're right in the spot where they were with Jackson Dart. You're not going to be able to sell a guy on coming to Oklahoma.
That's a good point. But
if he knows that Dillon Gabriel's coming back, if he knows that Jackson Arnold's coming in, if he knows that Nick Evers is here.
Well, start over. Start over.
Wouldn't like
hello, Josh. How are we?
Another like Micah Bowens? Wouldn't that be almost ideal? Like someone that can run the offense. You could probably do some things with, but he could also play another role. Like if he sees, okay, I'm not, say next year Jackson Arnold takes the job, or is clearly the heir apparent to Dillon Gabriel. However you want to look at that. What if you had a guy like that could run that Wildcat? You could still run what you've, kind of shown as your secondary option to a functional number 2 quarterback.
Basically, you're saying update the Belldozer.
Something like that. I mean, because I agree with the sentiment. Like, you're not going to find anybody meaningful in the portal with Dillon Gabriel and Jackson Arnold coming in. And frankly, you don't want to. Like, you don't want to upset the apple cart with Jackson Arnold. Like, you want that to be fine. So you don't want to go piss him off and go get a Hudson Card where he's like, well, I thought, I was willing to wait for a year behind Dillon Gabriel, but I don't know about, then I've got to be in a situation where this guy thinks he's going to be the starter in 2024. Like, I wonder how that dynamic works in this portal era.
It's going to be interesting also to see how they operate with the portal, just as a whole. Did you watch Brent Venables' show on Monday night?
I still have not gotten around to it yet.
There was, Toby basically asked him if you could do anything different, what would you have done, as head coach this year? And he kind of took a different avenue. He didn't really answer the question.
Yeah.
But Brent, it ended up coming down to 2 things. And the last one was that I think caught a bunch of people's attention. One was giving the players their playbook early. He thought that they maybe focused too much on relationships and building relationships here in December a year ago. The other thing was the decisions that they made in the portal as far as building depth. And it was almost like, okay, is he like basically admitting that Maybe they should have gone after Drew Sanders harder because they thought David Awegbu was going to be fine at middle linebacker. I don't know. It's like I guess he didn't really
Regardless,
answer it.
you should have went after Drew Sanders. He was a Butkus finalist.
Sure. I mean, he basically kind of said that they made some wrong decisions as far as building depth in the portal. And I just wonder what that
Drew
really means.
Sanders would have been the best player on this team.
Yeah. I don't know. Maybe I'm remembering incorrectly. Did they really give themselves a shot there?
Yeah, Josh, you'd have to ask that or answer that.
They did.
They did, right?
They worked
Yeah.
on Sanders, but I kind of struggle to believe if they worked to the same rate that Arkansas did, that he wouldn't have picked Oklahoma. He had so much more familiarity there. He knew, obviously Venables' track record, all those things. There were a lot of things that he questioned about Oklahoma in the first time around that wouldn't have existed the second time around. So I think, and again, you're guessing at what his meaning was, but I think Eddie has some validity there. And I think there's probably a learning curve in trying to sort out, like, I'm just getting here, and then I'm going to tell all these guys, you're not good enough. I'm going to find these guys to help. And Brent being the person that he is, I'm sure that was a tough pill to swallow, like to say, hey guys,
it's tough to build a relationship with somebody and then also say, oh, by the way, I don't think this guy that's been here with you for 3 years, I don't think he's worth a shit.
Yeah. And I'm sure that's because now those guys know him, they know what he's about, and he can say, guys, this is just, like, I love you, I want you here, but we're here to win. That's the point.
Well, and the thing that I know about Brent, above all else is like, and you know this too, Josh, like he's an evaluator. Like he gets a guy out on the practice field and he knows instantly whether that guy's got it or not. Like if he'll go out there and see like, oh, his change of direction is terrible. He can't play for us. Like he'll know that, after a few practices. Like, so, I mean, there's guys that, he identified early. It's just like, they made a mistake bringing this kid here. Like, how did this kid ever get here? And there's seven. I mean, I would say there's probably double-digit number kids like that on defense.
Yep.
Yeah, and a couple started.
Yep.
I mean, I don't know, how else to say that. Like, that's just is what it is. So I think there is, and again, guys, like when I went through the Tech game for the idiot, I found positives. Like there are good things in that tape.
Sure.
Where you would say, okay, this can be built on, but it's just and the stuff they're messing up on, and I know I heard Teddy talk about it in their pod. Like it's not like this is complicated stuff. I can't tell you how many times guys just continue to take terrible angles. Keyshawn Lawrence has got outside leverage at least twice and just blows the angle. I mean, and he gets beat by Sir Roderick Thompson outside. Like, man, you can't. They're not coaching that. That's not a thing that's about coaching. And and I know people will say, well, that's what you said about Alex Grinch too. That's true. When you get multiple years and your message isn't getting across, okay, maybe the message is the problem. In year one, the message is not the problem. Like and guys, that's basic, fundamental stuff that we just kept seeing them mess up on. And I'm really interested to see what spring looks like as far as like, are there real changes? Are there real battles at certain positions where, it felt like this year they wish they had some more depth to push a couple of these guys that did struggle.
What is the biggest, and I guess this kind of wraps in with, and because the answer might be like a Peyton Bowen or David Hicks, but biggest need from this November 30th right now for Oklahoma, like over the next 30 days, what do they absolutely have to do as far as recruiting and or transfer portal? Because you got Miles Slusher out there now, the safety from Arkansas. Like you would imagine it's going to be on the defensive side of the ball outside of maybe, do you get involved in the wide receiver position?
Christian Leary just entered.
Just now?
Like last 20 minutes from Bama.
Well, what would be the biggest need, I guess? Everything? Fuck. All right.
Defensive line, man. Defensive line.
No, I mean it's defense, but they need linebackers too. I mean,
and they need this guy, and they
need safeties. I mean,
Peyton Bowen flipping would be nice, So, yeah, there's a whole bunch.
Yeah, I mean, in offensively, they need offensive line. They need running backs. I mean,
they need every position.
Yeah, with Eric Gray accepting a Senior Bowl invite
Yep.
today. That is probably one of the talked about this morning. It's like what Eric Gray did this season. It's really unfortunate they went 6-6 because for a program that obviously has a illustrious list of running backs, he had one of the better seasons of all time. And I don't think that people maybe outside of the diehards really realize how good he was all year.
Damon Parker-ish.
I mean, it was incredible.
Going to get lost in the shuffle.
Ninth all time.
So you got Bijan Robinson. You got Deuce Vaughn. I don't know what his numbers were this year. I don't think they were as good. I don't think they were his career best. Or maybe they were. I just didn't pay enough attention. And Eric Gray, do you have 3 running backs on Big 12 first team now? I think they switched that. Or it's like you have 5 receivers and
I don't remember. I'm
surprised you don't have 2 quarterbacks.
The way that things are going right now, I'm surprised that they don't release, what would it be, 44 guys, first and second?
Yeah.
2
they don't even have a second team. They just have all
just
Big 12.
2 first teams.
Guys, that was what he's done just now. If he doesn't play in the bowl, that's the 4th best rushing season in Oklahoma since 1978.
It's wild.
Yep.
That's amazing when you think about it in those terms. And all, Adrian Peterson only had 1 year better. Quentin Griffin had a year better. And obviously Samaje's year when he broke the record against Kansas that just kind of warped those numbers incredibly. But, I mean.
And it's amazing, too, because he wasn't used that much in the first 3 games. Because that's where we were openly talking. Is Marcus Major going to overtake him? And then conference season started up, and Gray just said, this is my show.
And, I mean, what's amazing is the consistency because I'm looking at it.
Yes.
And of the 8 guys in front of him, every one of them save one had at least 3 200-yard games. Eric Gray had 1.
It's amazing.
That's amazing. Just 150, just week after week, you could count on him putting together a really big show.
Well, I mean, we said it time and time again, but I mean, where's this offense at without an Eric Gray? It would have been just absolutely abominable. I mean, it would have been a disaster. He, over the last 6 games, this was in the game notes after the Tech game, he rushed for 845 yards over the last 6 games, averaging 140.8 per game, and at least 90 yards in each of those contests. So, I mean, over the last 6 games, it was basically turn around and hand the ball to Eric Gray, and a lot of people knew that was going to happen, that they were trying to give him the ball. 1364 is what he ended with. 1364, 11 touchdowns, 213 carries, 6.4 average.
I mean, there were
bad.
times when he was the offense. I mean,
but then there were times when it was 3rd and 2, and you're like, if you give it to Gray, for some reason, this isn't going to work.
Yeah.
That's what still makes no sense.
Because people people bust their, Chris Murray bust his assignment. We don't have to go back over the frustrations of the season, but no,
Bob said it best. They were consistently inconsistent. That was the only thing that they were consistent about was being inconsistent.
Up.
Yes. And do it. I still can't get over, their bad was so bad that it just compounded on top of itself. And the end of that first half Saturday night was just the perfect example of going from one extreme of 24-6, this feels pretty good.
And you're getting the ball.
To you literally are clinging to a 1-point lead, and the only reason that you're not trailing is because time ran out.
Well, and a lot of it was, also was just the fact that this offense wasn't good enough to overcome mistakes, and the defense wasn't good enough to overcome mistakes.
Yep.
When you've got Caleb Williams, and I'm sorry I mentioned that name, but you can be in 1st and 15, and he can pull it and run it, and he can get you a first down on 4th down and short. He's a playmaker, and they didn't have that kind of playmaker on this offense this year. And as much as Dillon Gabriel made some plays with his feet, he's far from what we've seen in the past. I mean, he's better than Spencer Rattler, but that's about it in the last 3 years. I mean, he's not even Baker mobile.
We talked about Dillon time and time again. Then Pro Football Focus has him ranked number 10, and that we would all agree with that.
Look,
He's good, but
yes,
he's not
he's
a guy.
He's a very good quarterback, and he's a quarterback that you should want to be your quarterback going into next year.
Yes.
The thought of of bringing in a true freshman and expecting him to play better than Dillon Gabriel played this year, that's not realistic. Look at the cross. Like Caleb Williams was a true freshman. He played last year. He wasn't the quarterback he is this year. He did a lot of good things just off of his talent, but he made it. They were they losing to Kansas?
They were
last
shut
year
out.
at halftime?
Shut out.
Kansas. And that Baylor game he was bad, and the Oklahoma State second half he was bad.
Yep.
Like you have
and
a
that's
better.
not to say that. Jackson Arnold couldn't be really, really good someday.
Right.
That's just showing just how tough it is to come in as a true freshman and do that.
And he is. I get he's playing a higher level of high school football than most people are playing, but at the same time, he's on a really good team too. You guys were down there watching him play Allen. They made Allen look like a lower division.
Yeah.
They're that much. They're huge everywhere.
They're pretty good. He's really good, though.
Oh, he is.
I just don't know if he's
I'm just saying,
Caleb Williams ready.
Your expectation for a true freshman. We saw the guy that's getting ready to win the Heisman as a true freshman last year, and it was better. The only reason he wasn't criticized is because it was better than what Spencer Rattler was doing.
Yeah.
But Dillon Gabriel's played overall better than Spencer Rattler did when he was here.
Oh, we're 365 days removed from people trying to tell you, well, I guess not 365, but just over a year removed from people trying to say that Caleb Williams, he's just an okay quarterback,
Yeah.
They're not going to miss him. But at the same time, if you can get the Dillon Gabriel that was in Lubbock, we're not having this conversation if he would have played like that all year.
Yeah.
He missed some. There was a thread on the board just talking about what was wrong with the offense and the failures that they had on 3rd and 4th down.
All right, guys, it's almost Christmas time, and I want to remind you guys about DeadSoxy.com, one of our great partners, DeadSoxy.com, DeadSoxy.com. And here's what I want you to do for me. Go to their website, click on the Bundles tab, and then check out some of the bundles that you can get. If you're looking for a great Christmas gift, you can get a bundle of no-shows. You can get a bundle of casual socks, a bundle of the boardroom dress socks. And there's something there for everybody. But the Crimson 4-pack is in there. If you go to just the dress socks or the casual socks, check out the tie-dye 3-pack. Those are really cool athletic loungers. And we're a huge fan of the no-shows. So DeadSoxy.com, go check them out. Great sponsors of the podcast. And get yourself, either yourself or someone else, a great gift for the holidays that you can wear around, feel comfortable in, and look good in. That's DeadSoxy.com. Use that promo code SCOOP. You'll get 25% off plus free shipping for the holidays. So use that promo code SCOOP and 25% off your order plus free shipping thanks to the good folks at Dead Soxy.
3rd and 4th down.
And it's everything. Sometimes it was Dillon Gabriel missing guys. Sometimes it was Marvin Mims or Jalil Farouk dropping balls, and they're not the only two that did. Sometimes it was Dillon Gabriel and Marvin Mims or whoever doing their job, and it gets called back because the left side of the line isn't set.
Right.
It was everything. If there was a problem on the offensive side of the ball, it was truly everything.
And it's a good offense. It's just not when Baker and Kyler were here, those were
not
historically good offenses. In the history of college football, we hadn't seen offenses that good. So when it was 2nd and 20 against Kansas, they were picking that up.
Yeah. No, they could put themselves in a hole, and it's like, okay, well, this is almost kind of fun because let's see how they get it now.
Yeah. You got Mark Andrews and Hollywood Brown and CeeDee Lamb, and go to the running backs. All the running backs that they have, it's just it's crazy. You could be undisciplined, and you could still pay out.
They were so bad at the little things and discipline, and it just.
But this team, when it's 3rd and 8, if Marvin Mims is not all their big plays were set up, in Jeff Lebby's offense. There was something they did to get one-on-one coverage for Marvin Mims so he could just beat his guy down the field. And it was always it's just like we said this, Bob, on the podcast, you felt like in that game when it went to overtime, you're like, oh no, it's a short field. How are they gonna navigate this? Because they're not good at OU is really good at getting 50 yards. Yep. They're not very good at getting 8 yards.
Yep. It's been a problem the entire year, and a lot of people pointed out the lack of the success or any execution in the middle of the field with Braden Willis or Drake Stoops. It's a lot of them is just, swing passes or go deep, and that can only get you so far. That's something Dillon's gonna have to work on a lot during the offseason, because you had someone like Braden Willis at your disposal to just get those hard, tough yards on third down, and you didn't go there nearly enough.
Do we even explore the idea, and the only reason I bring this up, is Dillon Gabriel even back next year? Like, is that even a serious conversation
People
to be had?
People keep asking me that, but what's he going to do? I mean, he's in a great situation. He's a starting quarterback at Oklahoma. I would think so. Unless Jeff Lebby's gone to him and said, look, we're going to go with Jackson Arnold next year from start to finish.
Sure.
That would be is he worried he's going to have to share snaps with Jackson Arnold? Like, where are you going to go that's a better situation than this?
Sure.
Maybe he doesn't like how big this place is. And
that's what I was going to say.
Yeah.
The only thing would be, oh, wait a minute, I wanted to go to the big time. Now I know what it is.
Yeah, I like
really
UCF.
not for me.
I was a lot more fun. It was a lot more fun playing at UCF than it is
just
here.
being a casual.
Yeah. And he's not a guy that enjoys attention a lot. I mean, I don't get the sense that he does.
Those Monday night interviews with him, I mean, we had to do them, but it never felt like, oh, man, that's some real insight.
I mean, we never had a quarterback skip out on a post game.
It also was uncomfortable just for the fact that, he was coming in there and almost, 6 times this year is having to be the conversation of, even in some wins, like, what the hell happened?
Yeah.
Why did you suck? Why did the offense suck? Why did, all these things that were happening that were not good to talk about, not positive. I'm sure it wasn't any fun.
What was that? Was it after a win when he got emotional at one time?
He got emotional after the Bedlam win.
The Bedlam win.
Yeah. And then, Saturday night after the game in Lubbock, he was just, I don't know, it was very awkward.
Yes.
It was very awkward.
Yep.
And he was very non-committal about coming back, but
saying it's too fresh in his mind.
Some of that, too, is just like he wasn't always the most forthcoming after a loss. I don't think he...
Maybe he wants to feel the love. I don't know.
Yeah, it's like... And, I think that they have NIL stuff set up for him, so I don't know what he would be chasing. But, I guess we had to throw it out there, so it'll be interesting.
Now, if he hits the transfer portal on Sunday or Monday, it'll be...
Well, he can do whatever he wants. He's a grad transfer. So, just like Theo today. Theo doesn't have to wait.
For the record, I don't think that that's the case. I would be surprised if Dillon Gabriel announced that he was leaving.
Yeah, I would too.
Unless him and Levy have just drifted so far apart compared to who they thought they were their time in Florida, and now it's like, oh, wait a minute, we're not the same people. What we're looking to do are totally different things.
That sounds
now.
like a marriage.
It does, doesn't it? Yes.
All right. Well, yeah, and look, I would say this, like, if you're going to ask me to rank potential surprise transfers, I would not rank him as the highest possibility. Like,
no.
And I'm not, I hate doing this because I'm not saying anybody's going to transfer, but like.
I know, I really hate when people are posing that question.
Yeah, it's just like, I feel a little irresponsible because this is just us, spitballing. It's there's not based on anything that we've heard or not heard, but. Like, one guy I just have a little bit of concern for. And tell me, Josh, you tell me if you think I'm wrong. Danny Stutzman?
No, I don't see that one. I mean, like,
because the way he is in interviews and, he basically, he doesn't like the criticism as well. Like, and he just always talks about how everything's going to be fine. He's got the most infuriating post-game interviews because it's like the one after Tech, it was like, we just got to go back to the drawing board and get better. It was like, the season's over. Like, that was my whole theme on the post-game podcast.
That made me very angry. But at the same time, you look up and it's like, he led the Big 12 in tackles
I know.
Year. Like,
he's like the get off the field.
But he's the Dillon Gabriel of the defense. Like, he had a great year. And it wasn't good enough. It's because of the losses. I mean, like, you cannot separate the negativity and the fans and social media. Like, it just makes everything feel like everybody sucked, and that's not the truth. The truth is Danny Stutzman had a really good year. Dillon Gabriel had a really good year.
It's just because the defense had a chance in 3 of those one possession losses clearly to get off the field and give the offense an opportunity, and it just didn't happen. Kansas State, Baylor, Mountaineers.
Like, if you polled fans, like, who's your favorite player on the defense, it's probably C.J. Coldon because he made the most plays that were noticeable.
Sure. And maybe it was unfair that we just expected, or at least I did, that expected like Danny Stutzman to turn into this guy that was going to be a Buckus winner after starting 13 games.
Yeah.
You know, like
the first
I
three
thought it was
games,
just going to happen quickly.
With Reggie Grimes and Stutzman, those first 3 games, like, oh man, they got first. They are first team all conference guys,
right
here coming, and it just didn't happen.
And I think that there's a little bit of maturity there that needs to be, made probably on Danny's side, and I think he would even say that's probably the case.
And the other thing's like Ethan Downs probably is not an edge, but he's got some ability and skill. I mean, he makes plays. He just also does things that makes it impossible to run a defense at times.
Yeah, I think there's no doubt there's a use for Ethan Downs. Like, I think he can be a useful, functional, whatever you want to term it as, player. But as defensive end, he just has some limitations. Like, he's not a twitchy, going to turn the corner, dip his shoulder, be a, explosive pass rusher. And I know that seems so counterintuitive because he's a very good athlete. He's a very athletic guy, but he's not twitchy. He's, you always hear people say like, oh, he's quicker than fast. He's faster than he is quick. And so I think that confuses people sometimes. And I think Ethan Downs, if he could put on a little weight, slide inside, do things kind of similarly to what Jalen Redmond has done the last couple of years, I think that suits him much better than trying to be a defensive end where his length and explosion just kind of hinder him at times.
You mentioned Redmond. I mean, there's someone that could come back. Jordan Kelly could come back. David Agwebu could come back. You have so many possibilities.
Well, I don't know, and I posted it to you guys right before the game on Saturday. His dad posted something, or his stepdad posted something about him, Jalen, like this being his last regular season game or something.
I think Jalen he's had, and I think he has good people around him, but he's also had people that, the good people have had to kind of fight against that have convinced him even years ago, even before like COVID hit, he was headed to the NFL. Like, remember the year, before that shoulder got hurt and then he didn't work out and then he sat out the year. Like, he was contemplating leaving for the NFL then.
Right. Because that would be his third year, was 2020, third year removed from high school, and he was just going to leave.
I'm not trying to take shots at people, but don't we need to put a little bit more on tape?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yes.
I don't think any of us. But here's the thing.
He needs to stop lying to himself if that's the case.
Well, like I said, he's got people around him that have convinced him of that.
Sure.
And, I mean, like, you would think that these kids have perspective. Like, he was roommates with Isaiah Thomas last year.
Right.
Like he's seen Isaiah was productive, and he was still a fourth round
pick.
And like, he's fighting for his life
fighting for a roster
spot.
spot.
He's fighting for a roster.
I mean,
and he's
come on.
playing a little bit. Like,
sure.
Like, he's got to sack it. But Jalen has to see that and think to himself, like, yeah, I'm not in position yet. Like, that guy was putting stuff on tape on a daily
Isaiah
weekly
Thomas
basis.
was doing a year ago is, it's not even in the same
Stratosphere.
book.
Yeah, exactly.
Of what Jalen Redmond had done. That's just crazy to me.
I mean, like, Nick Bonito and Isaiah Thomas, like, were the two biggest playmakers on the defense. And we all thought that Perrion was supposed to be, but he wasn't. And Jalen is nowhere near that category.
Correct.
Yeah, I mean, look at.
But he's also
physically,
saying, he's also
Jalen Redmond versus Perrion Winfrey.
Yeah, it wouldn't surprise me though, because he's also in this belief where he's been playing in the wrong position, like he should be out on the edge.
That's fair. That's an
there's
interesting conversation.
Mm-hmm.
You probably
There's
don't
a
lose
big
the
part-
edge as much if he's out there instead of Ethan Downs.
Yep. And I think you also, guys, it's also interesting schematically. Like, if Brent had shown up maybe 2 years before, Jalen Redmond could play in his scheme as a 265-pound defensive end. Grinch just didn't want that. He wanted 240-pound, long, lean guys like Isaiah Thomas.
Yeah.
He wanted different body types than what Brent is willing to play with outside. And so I think Redmond probably would have stayed out there. And that's what's crazy about the whole Ethan Downs conversation, is because I think Redmond fits as a defensive end in this scheme a lot better than Downs does.
Well, but I mean, Redmond,
what Redmond used to be, I guess I could say. Now he's 300 pounds, so it wouldn't make as much sense.
Like if Redmond and Kelly both came back like that, if they came up with a plan like that, it could really help the defense. Mm-hmm. I mean, I think Kelly's on the verge of being a really good player.
Guys, they're a reasonably consistent pass rusher away from being a pretty good defense, I think, next year. Not like elite. I'm not telling you top 10 or anything like that, but like a top 35, top 30 defense. I think that's entirely within reason. Like, I think that is possible. If the group continues to grow, you continue to see these guys get better about the finer points. But there are pieces at every, like Billy, your starting safeties could be Billy Bowman and Key Lawrence. Your corners are Woody Washington and C.J. Coldon. Guys, that's the best secondary OU's had in years. Like, if you could keep that four together. Now, you got to figure out what you're going to do at Cheetah. Your linebackers should be extremely athletic with Stutzman and probably Kanik. The defensive line's the question. Like, what can you put together there that doesn't force you to blitz so frequently that you're putting that secondary and that second level at real risk?
Yeah, this C.J. Coldon thing will be interesting. I don't know if he's got a medical hardship. I mean, he's a 2017 class member, so this was his 6th year. And I know he's had a lot of injuries, but I mean, you'd love if he could stick around because the way he played the second half of the season, he basically, you ended all speculation about your corners. It was Woody and C.J., and you saw that Saturday play like every single snap.
Did Jaden Davis use a COVID year? Can he come back?
Oh, yeah. I mean,
okay.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Like, anyone before the 2021 class has the COVID year, as long as they didn't opt out.
I got to think he's a pretty strong candidate to come back, Jaden Davis. And he did some really good stuff this year.
And that's what's going to be interesting is who do you want to come, like Jordan Kelly, do you want him to come back for his 6th year? Or who are you kind of pushing out the door just to, hey, glad you're here. It's not going to work out.
I think one guy on the defensive line that's probably not going to be coming back is Corey Robertson.
Yes.
Yeah.
His mom does not seem like she's a fan.
I don't understand that part of it. I mean, like, I saw times last year where he was playing with as much effort as anybody on the defensive line, like chasing people down sideline to sideline.
At the end of last year,
West
he was playing
Virginia
really
game,
well.
he played really well. That was here in Norman. Like, I know, that's not the most surprising. I think Josh would probably tell you the most surprising thing is Clayton Smith. And, like, Josh, I just got to imagine you wonder, like, what the hell did I miss there when you see Clayton Smith not even on the roster anymore?
Well, guys, I mean, and I said it when this staff came in, like, he wasn't a great fit for what they do.
Right, exactly.
Yeah, like, he was always going to be a little bit of an awkward fit. Now, I will say – once you started to see like, oh, he wasn't on the roster anymore and he's probably headed to the portal, all that kind of stuff, talking to a few people that have, been around both, kind of before the change, after the change, I think work rate was always going to be a little bit of a thing for him. So it'll be interesting to see what happens because, I mean, guys, like if he is all that people thought he was going to be, surely he goes to LSU, right? Like, he's going to go play for Jamar Cain and do that. Like, I mean, that makes all the sense in the world. Former 5-star, very young, still has plenty of eligibility left. LSU has needs. I mean, it would make some sense, but we'll see. I mean, maybe it surprises me, but I feel like he's going to end up somewhere a little below where you would expect for a guy with his pedigree.
And that's those people that just, I'm going to go in the portal because I know there's something better. And then you learn very quickly. Maybe not.
Yeah, I mean, I would think it'd be, another school in Texas or maybe like a Tulane or something like that.
But yeah, he didn't put the weight on. Like, if you're going to, you think you're Nick Benito, but now that position doesn't really exist in what Venables is running, then you need to adjust, and he just didn't, he never really took to it.
What about like Reggie Grimes as a kind of a guy that might
right
around?
Uh-huh. Something happened to him. I gotta think he was injured the second half of the year. There's just no way that's
like,
Reggie Grimes. Yeah, with all that he said.
I was one who. Yeah, I was wanting to question him early, but I think he's better than what he put on tape in the second half. So I could buy that. Something. And, I mean, it got to the point where he wasn't even the consistent starter.
Correct.
Lalu was taking most of those snaps, or at least starting a lot of those games.
Complete speculation. But, I mean, his grandma was going through cancer a battle. Remember, he talked about that right after one of the first games of the year. You just never know if there's shit going on, off the field that is affecting how he, operates from day to day.
That is the title of this podcast. Speculation.
Speculation 101.
Transfer.
Well, let's do a little bit more.
Not reporting, just speculating.
You're asking us who could leave while we can make cases for like 50 guys.
We can speculate on a report. How about that? As far as Peyton Bowen goes, and I know our rival site up at Notre Dame, we ran something on the front page today, Josh. Kind of weird. Like, is he going to make an announcement or a decision before in-home visits begin?
I did not see that coming. That was one of those things where one of our members was like, "Hey, did you see this?" And I just had missed it. And I get to read it, and I'm like, "What in the world?" And that would be out of left field. But I mean, to me, if that's the case, I feel really good if I'm Oklahoma. Like, because that's the last visit he took, and then to all of a sudden be like, "Okay, I'm ready to be done with all this," and I may do it before in-home visits. You're like, "Wow!" And that, to me, that feels like a situation where I've heard everything I need to hear. I've seen everything I need to see. And all that's going to happen out of these in-home visits is, coaches are going to come in, give me the whole spin again, and then I have to tell them no face-to-face. Like, it's easier. I mean, it's a high school kid, man. Like, you get it. Like, the confrontation is much harder than, at worst, I've got to make a phone call. Like, I just think that's probably what you're going to see. And, guys with the, his girlfriend headed to Oklahoma and Jackson Arnold connection and all the other easy connections that Oklahoma has with Peyton Bowen. I've got to read that as good news for OU. That's just the only way I see that.
I don't know. I looked at it the other way, though. Like if he's going to make that decision before visits, does he want to do it so he doesn't have to make the flip? Like,
well, he wouldn't have to make the decision if he was just staying with the Irish.
Yeah,
like,
that's
hey,
true.
I'm just staying. True. I'm good, guys. Yeah, I took these other trips. So what?
But when you waited this long to tell someone I'm not coming after you've been committed, to me, that's what you want to avoid. I mean, that's the more awkward situation to me.
So you're telling me, Kerry, you would just sign on signing day with Oklahoma and just be done with it? Like, sorry, Marcus.
Is that how Corey Nelson did it?
Basically, yeah.
Corey Nelson and Frank Shannon at the same time that morning?
I mean, but Corey Nelson was the flip. He was that night before he was still committed to A&M, and then he just shocked the world when he signed with Oklahoma.
Yeah, and was telling people the night before he was going to sign with A&M.
Right.
Like, I mean, and I mean, for those that don't remember, that was a Brent Venables special right there. So,
I mean, was like, Brent was the only coach that could do that on that staff. Like, not just then, but it never happened again, I don't think.
It doesn't happen very often. I mean, and certainly not for players that turned out to be high quality
level,
players
correct.
like Corey did.
Yeah, right.
This kind of, I mean, this sort of reminds me of the whole. Why is A&M always involved in these stories? It reminds me of the whole Adrian Peterson, like, hiding from the Texas A&M coaches when they came on, his in-home visit. Because I need to pull this out. I actually have that conversation on mini disc of all things.
Do you really?
Yes,
oh, that's amazing.
Of me talking to him and him telling me that he's like, yeah, they're coaches. I don't want to talk to them. They're with my mom and stepdad. And like he's whispering and stuff. Because I had gone to see him after the Sugar Bowl that year that they lost to LSU. So we kind of built up a relationship. Like he would actually take my calls, which he wouldn't do. Like that's why I had to go to his house in Palestine because he wasn't answering the phone.
Yeah, he was – the only reason I had such a good relationship with Adrian was because I knew – like before handlers were common, he basically had a handler. And and Krabby and I knew that guy well. And so it kind of – we had gotten an early head start, and so we always had a good relationship. But I mean, I remember that same night, like, because everybody's like, "Oh God, A&M's in home," and just freaking out. And he's like, I'm like, what are you doing, man? And he was like, I'm sitting in my room. I was like, oh, okay. I thought I'd heard A&M was there. He goes, they are. And you're like, wait, what? And he's like, yeah, they're talking to my mom and dad. Oh, God. You're like, well, okay. I don't think we got to worry about A&M too much. And that was, I mean, you look back at that era of A&M recruiting, like they were so proud of like Jackson Appel, who was like a good like college safety that I think made like basically had a cup of coffee in the NFL. And it's like, that's insane. And they were going 8-4 at that point in time. They still had pretty good teams. And now they've got all these guys that everybody wanted, and they're a total dumpster fire.
By the way, speaking of that era, how good is Reggie McNeil Jr.?
Not. He's not dad. That's for sure. Like
Why
I
does
saw
that seem like that happens more and more? Like the sons are never as good as the dads anymore. Like I'm trying to think
I feel like it's always the cousin or something. Like his nephew is a monster.
Yeah.
That
Marvin
kind of
Harrison
deal.
Jr. is
Like,
pretty damn good.
Oh yeah, okay. There's one. There's one. Yeah.
Oh, he's something else, man.
But like Barry Sanders Jr., like
he was never going to be as good as dad, though. That might be a little unfair.
Yeah.
I mean, Adrian's got enough kids. Shouldn't one of them be good?
But I mean, on
Kevon
the same
Jones'
team,
son might have a chance.
Really?
I know the Broken Arrow people are talking like he's going to be the next big deal.
Mm-hmm.
Oh.
Yep.
I was up, Eddie and I were up there this weekend, and there are people talking about him like, if NIL was a thing in Tulsa high school football.
It is.
Yeah, you can NIL and OSSAA has guidelines.
I'm not going to throw out there anything, but if I would say it's probably a coin flip if he's at Broken Arrow or somewhere else next year. I know there is a lot of
Choctaw.
a lot of rosters willing to bring him in.
I bet those Choctaw families are ready to put together some NIL packages.
Oh, I could believe that. They've had plenty of move-ins through the years.
Those
There's no doubt.
Are too big out there.
Deer Creek might get in the game.
Oh yeah, Deer Creek. Yeah.
I think anybody would want to play alongside Grady over the next couple years. Would it be a bad deal?
Yeah.
You know whose son is pretty good? Primes. Deion Sanders. Just like Prime Shrimp is pretty good. PrimeShrimp.com, ladies and gentlemen. Go check them out. PrimeShrimp.com. Great sponsor of the pod. PRIME Shrimp.com. And they've got a lot of great deals for you. But you can use that promo code SCOOP and get $20 off your entire order. So go check them out. Lots of different great flavors. They've got the Louisiana shrimp boil if you like that type of flavorings, or you can get the one that I like the most, which is the French Quarter Alfredo and the garlic herb butter. But the signature seasoned lemon and cracked pepper is a new one. I love some lemon chicken, and I love my lemon and cracked pepper shrimp. So one of my favorites, definitely. And also coming soon, New Orleans style barbecue. So they're always trying to come up with more flavors and great flavors. So go look online. You can get the seasoned 6-pack for that Louisiana taste, the variety 6-pack to get everything, or the saucy 6-pack that gives you, the garlic herb butter and the French Quarter Alfredo. So go check them out. PrimeShrimp.com. Great sponsors of the pod. Appreciate you guys supporting them. And Sooner Scoop is forever their favorite because you guys just dominated our initial competition when we started with them. So PrimeShrimp.com. Go check them out. Promo code SCOOP, by the way. Sooner Scoop. Sooner Scoop for $20 off. Okay. One thing we didn't really touch on is the Theo Wease situation before we get back to recruiting. So was it Mike Craven or who was it that
Mike Roach.
Mike Roach from 24/7 had reported.
Very well respected.
Yeah, very well respected. Yeah. Reported that people close to him said he was going to transfer. So then he goes on Strengthening Oklahoma, which, they're paying him NIL money to do video interviews, and he says, I haven't decided yet. Well, I guess he must have got his November payment today. Must have hit his bank account.
He had a Snapchat thing that hit the rounds last night that said he'd broken up with the OU coaches.
It's pretty good.
So it made us like, all right, he's going to announce.
Well, look, here's the thing. Like, he's well deserved to transfer. I mean, they did not use him. The Tech game just shows you he's got a lot left in the tank. And look, I think he's probably lost a step or two with the injuries that he's had. He doesn't quite have the speed he does. But, I mean, how many other people besides Marvin Mims do you throw the ball up to in one-on-one situations and have him come down like he did and shed 2 defenders into the end zone?
Even the Tech game was strange because he didn't have 50, 60 snaps. He was still around 30, and he was basically around like 10 to 20 the second half of the season. So I don't know what happened, but they fell in love of the package of Jaleel Farouk, Marvin Mims, Drake Stoops, Braden Willis. Those were their guys. For whatever reason, that was the four they always went toward, and then Theo was to give someone a breather or a different look instead of being among the starters like he had been through the first half of the year.
And I mean, here's the thing, to me with that is this hurts you during the offseason when you only play that many players at a position. Like, you're going to lose players in the portal that are frustrated because they didn't get more snaps.
Jaden Gibson might be one if you're talking about speculating. There you go.
We're not reporting, we're speculating.
Dude didn't even see the field as a receiver going down. He played on punt coverage, but he didn't see the field as a receiver rest of the way.
Is it different for freshmen though? I mean, obviously, I guess Jordan Mukes kind of goes against that.
Just depends on your mindset. Like,
well, what about like LV Bunkless Shelton? I mean, like, you
like
see
that's
him
a guy
little
that
bit,
now
but
he
not
would
a lot.
have to wait a year because he'd have to get a second waiver.
Okay.
He's not a grad transfer. He transferred after his freshman year, Arizona State. So there's no way he could be a grad transfer at this point. So you have to weigh that out. Is it worth sitting out a year and then coming back to go to another place?
No, but I wish Theo all the luck in the world.
Yep.
I mean, he was always great to deal with in recruiting. It is. We do need to pour one out for that 5-star wide receiver class now, though.
It's officially dead.
It's a
with Jaden Hazelwood headed to the
I
NFL.
saw he just announced he was going to the
Arkansas,
NFL.
which he
had 59 catches.
He had 700 yards, receiving this year.
You'll
didn't
take
even
that.
notice that.
No blow up like monster games, but just steady consistency.
Yeah. Bridges is working his way through JUCO ball at the very least. I
still follow him on Instagram.
His huddle looks good.
He's
looks
getting
like a good.
He's
solid,
getting offers. I don't know what kind of level he'll ever.
He'd probably have to go JUCO, and just keep his nose clean.
Well, he's been JUCO, but he's getting real
okay.
offers.
I didn't realize he was back playing.
Yeah, he's at East Los Angeles.
Okay.
Yeah.
Guys, just run through that 2019 class with
Right.
me for a second.
Oh no.
24
turned into a doom
commitments,
pod.
the number 5 class in the country. The guys who actually
have done something.
The guys who we know didn't finish their career at OU. Jaden Hazelwood, Jeremiah Cradell, obviously not his fault. Ty DeArmond, let's see, Stacy Wilkins, Marcus Hicks, still Joseph Wette, EJ Ndoma Ogar, Jonathan Perkins, Derek Green, Theo Wease, Jamal Morris, sure looks like Corey Roberson, Trajan Bridges, Spencer Rattler, and Austin Stogner. That's like half your class didn't even – I mean, a lot of those guys didn't make it 2 years.
And a lot of them, you have to say that, I don't know if they've panned out anywhere else.
Right.
Either.
Is that like one of the worst evaluated classes in the history of Oklahoma football? I'm dead serious when you look through it.
Because, you could have bad passes in the bad classes in the past, but there wasn't like a transfer portal to really – keep tabs on where some of these guys went and what happened.
I would say it's more bad luck than evaluation because everybody wanted those guys. I mean, especially the receivers.
Sure.
I mean, it's not like they were now it could be bad development.
Yes.
I mean, or bad just managing your roster.
I mean, Ramondre Stevenson is truly the only guy that you could say is like doing something big right now.
From 2019?
Yes.
A true success.
A true success. Rattler, obviously, he found some success this year at South Carolina. Stogner found some success. But, Woody's starting and playing. But, I mean, my God, there's a lot more names on here, like a Joseph Wette, that I don't even know if he's in football anymore. It's Jonathan Perkins up to. It's Derek Green up to. It's Jamal Morris up to.
Yeah, I never heard those names again. Because
Jonathan Perkins is the most Tim Kish signee ever.
Yep.
It's amazing. It's really bad.
David Agwebu come back for that fifth year, 2019 class.
I think that's a conversation they need to have.
You just you can't, even in the portal era, man, it's hard to survive hits like that.
Yep.
A class that is that, I mean, that should have been pretty much your senior class this year, and they were just in the wind.
Yeah, and kind of with everything else, like the leadership problem on this team, like that's why there isn't any.
And that's where Brent went on that spiel about the number of games this guy started, or this guy has started, because they were in 2019 class and they don't exist.
But a lot of these guys, like Stacey Wilkins, EJ Ndoma Ogar, like those were kind of like just guys that didn't seem to be football guys.
Yeah, it was.
They were more interested in other things, or that they just weren't willing to put in the work that it took.
Yeah, it's like a Ron Tatum. Stacey was like, God, man, if they put it together, they're going to be all world. They're going to be so good. But if they don't, then you just wasted the scholarship.
I mean, I'm look, he's doing great. Going to probably make the college football playoff unless Utah beats him. But they didn't. They would take what they could get, and they wouldn't. It seems to me like Lincoln Riley was more than fine looking at a kid and saying, he's not really, all that strong-willed or whatever, but we'll make him so. Like, we'll love him up and get him better or something. I mean,
one thing he was really he didn't care about the second signing period, Josh. Right? I mean, we were done December. Whatever that class was, he's like, all right.
I mean, Derek Green's another one. I mean, just quits as soon as he gets there. I mean, essentially.
Yeah. That one was a wild one. And guys, the thing, and Brent's brought it up multiple times, so I think it's absolutely something you're going to see is more focus on in-state recruiting, and I think it's a really good example. In that 2019 class, OU passed on Ricky Stromberg at Tulsa Union, who signed with Arkansas, and Isaiah McGuire at Tulsa Union. Both those guys in the last 24 hours have announced they're going early. They're going to the NFL draft. Like, those are good players. Mm-hmm. That, like, Ricky Stromberg would have been OU starting center the last couple of years. And then Isaiah McGuire, I mean, OU couldn't use a big, long, active defensive lineman. Like, that's that there. I mean, again, and I'm not even saying that, that was a huge mistake. I'm just saying I feel like those guys never really got looks from Oklahoma, and that would not have been the case under the current regime. Like, that would have gone differently.
I like the way you say regime.
Oh, well, thank you.
Thank you. Yeah. It's not correct, but I like it.
Whatever.
Well, Eddie's not screwing up words lately, so we have to pick on somebody.
Just on my game.
Fair enough.
All right. So, like, we just kind of touched on general guys that are, in the news, but, like, leading up to signing day now, I mean, we're full speed ahead here. Like, is it really just waiting? By the way, the dead period is on right now, and I feel like I was one of the crap starters last night about the Ohio State Ryan Day.
Well, it was weird.
No, because it's the only visit picture we've seen on social media the entire week.
Other visit
There's a
picture.
reason for that. Yeah, exactly.
But I know the Notre Dame writers, curiously, were the ones putting stuff out there about it. Was he like second? Did they finish second to him or something? Notre Dame.
They might. All I noticed that when Luke did it himself, it didn't generate, but when On3 did it, it blew up.
Okay.
It was like when On3 mentioned that this had gone on, then it's like everyone saw it. Because we all stopped following Luke when he didn't pick the Sooners.
Yeah.
But if you're following the national stuff, and it's like, wait a minute, what is going on here?
So, but it was really confusing, and then you kind of realize, I think this is what we found out when Dorial Green Beckham came in on that visit, like, if you sign a financial aid paper, then you can have all this stuff. Like, you can be announced, as committed to a team, like by their school social media. And a lot of times,
but you just wonder, like, has OU do they have any of those guys so Brent and them could check them off, because they're gonna have a busy couple weeks here.
I mean, that's probably
if
something,
you can get a jump on someone, do it.
Yeah, that's something I think staffs need to look at. Like, do we have guys that are committed enough to sign something, binding to where we can get them out of the way for the dead period?
Because, like, Josh, you think they're going to bring people in this weekend, or is this going to be more of a in-home visit weekend and stuff where they're not looking to bring any transfers or 2023 guys in?
I would expect it's going to be pretty light, if anybody. Like, if anybody does come in, I would bet it's a deal where it's the only weekend they could make it work, or somebody has told them, hey, I just want to come in and check it out, and if everything's good, I'll I'll commit, that kind of thing, kind of a Jacob Lacey situation. But for me, like my understanding is the 2 weekends following are going to be the big ones because they're going to obviously have their big banquet and that kind of stuff. And that'll be a good weekend for visits. But I don't expect a ton. And frankly, I mean, like, and you guys mentioned kind of the lead up. I've got the war board up. There's not a lot of targets left out there in recruiting right now that haven't already taken their officials. I mean, you've got guys like Marcus Strong, David Peavy is another one. And one of the more interesting ones is Samson Okunlola, the big offensive tackle from Massachusetts that has never really shut down Oklahoma. He's stayed in contact, but so far, he's never really made the step to take the trip, and everybody kind of thinks he's a Miami guy, and he may be, but I think a visit's absolutely possible. Another really interesting one is Day McCullough, the defensive back from Indiana they offered a couple weeks ago. Now, for those that don't know, he's committed to Cincinnati.
All that news. Yep.
Obviously, with the change from Luke Fickell going to Wisconsin, you've got to think that makes it easier for him to, okay, I am going to take a trip. I'm going to go look around a little bit and see what's out there. So I think a visit from him is completely possible. You look around and there's, like I said, there's 5-6 guys. Keyshawn Blackstock, the big offensive lineman from Coffeyville, Khalil Barnes. The one that's maybe as interesting as any is Jordan Allen, the big tight end defensive end from Olathe in Kansas. Kid's been committed to Kansas State, since September.
Yep.
But he came down to OU for the Bedlam game. I mean, he was there. So and it was an unofficial visit. So does Oklahoma kind of push that? And that's where this all gets interesting because it's not just about the recruiting. It's about the portal. Like, do they feel like he's the best tight end they can get? Or do they want the kid from the small school, is it Morlock?
Yeah. The dude that's just blowing up with an offer every day.
Yes, it's picked up. Yeah, he's got like 25 offers. So there's a little bit of a kind of sliding scales. And they started following the Jaden Platt kid that was a Stanford commitment from North Dallas. So at tight end, I think that's as clear as anything. They are going to add at least one more body, maybe two. The defensive line we've talked about, I think you're going to see 2 or 3 guys. Obviously, they want one of those guys to be David Hicks. And then I think you get into the question of, is it Marcus Strong? Or do they find a guy in the portal that they think can maybe help them more immediately? So it's going to be that's what makes this all fun. Like, it's almost like putting a puzzle together and you're getting it from 2 different piles. Like there are pieces here, there's pieces there, and how does it all kind of come together in the end?
And if you get it wrong, you really get it wrong.
You can go 6-6.
Yep.
So
yeah, it'll be interesting to see kind of what continues to happen at Cincinnati too, just with Fickell leaving.
Mm-hmm.
And other coaching changes that might happen.
Because they've got some good, some very good talent, especially on the defensive side.
Eddie pointed it out to us yesterday. There was a DB that hit the portal that Brent followed from his high school days.
Yep.
So, I mean, there aren't many schools that have done a better job over the last 3 or 4 years of evaluating out of the high school ranks than Cincinnati has.
Well, Josh, since we're talking portal, Miles Slusher, is you hearing any real smoke yet, or is it just like these are easy dots to connect if they go that direction?
I think that's basically what it is at this point because, I mean, Miles being as vocal as he is and active as he is on social media, I would struggle to believe that if OU had gone all in on him, we would know about it. I think it's a matter, like I said, I think it may be connected to Peyton Bowen. There may be some other things going on there. But my impression in talking to some people around Tulsa and talking, even to some players that know Miles well, that if Oklahoma wants to get involved here, they're going to be very, very tough to beat. Like, that's a kid that, I know a lot of OU fans used to see him say some things and take some little jabs. That's a high school kid that wanted to go to Oklahoma. Like, it's not unusual. Doesn't make him a bad kid or anything like that. He wanted to go to Oklahoma and didn't feel like the previous staff gave him a look. Any hard feelings that exist from that, there's no reason for those to be there anymore because OU is not the same place it was then. So
J.J. Hester was one of them too, and he's with the Sooners.
absolutely.
He just got hurt.
Yeah. So I mean, and that's part of it too. I mean, people. I think it's unlike any other area in the state as far as like Tulsa guys. They all know each other. So like JJ, Miles, Gentry Williams, like those guys all are in communication with each other. They all know each other. And my guess is if you made me bet, I'd bet Miles is on this roster next year. But I think it's going to matter what else pops up in the portal. I mean, it's hard to replace a guy with his level of experience, though.
All right, I feel I'm not sure. Was Anthony Evans last Friday, or was he 2 weeks ago? Have we discussed?
It was last Friday.
Yeah, we haven't discussed it.
Yep. So talk about Tulsa kids. Is Micah T? So, is that someone that we should be wondering about, or maybe another guy that little off the radar?
Yeah, another guy that kind of snuck in for Bedlam, and a lot of people didn't talk about it. Micah was down there with Isaac Covington, who, Eddie and I saw a couple nights ago playing for Union. So there are what was interesting to me, and I, reported some of this late last week, I was told by someone pretty, that would know that Micah Tease has had a spot for a while. So it wasn't like, Anthony Evans left, so now OU's got a spot for Micah Tease. I've been told he has a spot, and he has had one for a little while now. So I don't know. What's going to be interesting is, do they go after a guy like Chance Fitzgerald, Taylor Wine's teammate in Tennessee? Yeah, so they could go that way. Fitzgerald's an explosive outside receiver, would make a lot of sense in Jeff Lebby's offense. There is a part of me, and I've never been able to have this conversation exactly. There's a part of me that thinks OU was evaluating Fitzgerald and found Wine. So I think again, I don't know that to be fact, but it's very interesting the timelines of how that all played out. But yeah, he's an interesting guy. But Micah, I know some out there have kind of said, as soon as he has a chance, he's in. From what I've heard, Micah's had a chance for a while, and it hasn't happened. So we'll see. I kind of like Slusher. If you made me bet, I'd bet Micah ends up in the class, but I'm not as certain as some are.
All right. I have to do this to you, Josh, but the Sooners
took home championship.
ESPN Events Champions.
Invitation. It was an invitation, too. Don't forget that.
They invited them as well. My boy Godwin looked solid once again.
He did.
But man, this team, I mean, everybody thought they were going to, they thought it was going to be crap after they lost to Sam Houston State, and here they are. Was it 6-1 now?
6-1, and now it's weird though, because you're like, hopefully they take 2 or 3 in Florida, and then they're going to lose to Villanova, and it's like, you can't lose to Villanova now. That team is not good right now.
They haven't recovered from the Jay Wright
departure. Jay Wright, they've got some injuries. You cannot lose. You can't win last weekend's tournament and then come back and lose Saturday. It takes away all your momentum, takes away all that whole, you got to get rid of the Sam Houston game.
Villanova like 2-5 or something? Okay.
And they went 0-3 in the PK Classic.
Look at my hoops knowledge, Josh.
All I heard was Godwin, and in my head I saw David Godbold.
Yeah.
That's how dated.
That's the last time you paid attention to OU basketball.
Yes, that's probably fair.
He is a king.
What was nice about last weekend is just seeing Grant Sherfield become the guy that Porter Moser needs him to be. Take us home. That was his message to him. You're going to be the guy that takes us home. And Sherfield did that time and time again. And then just getting contributions from different.
Sure, just leave out Bijan, like he wasn't really the star.
Contributions from different people on every game. Sam Godwin, when Tanner
Bijan's
Groves
a closer.
is in foul trouble. Bijan Cortez. They found something with Los, Bijan, and Grant. When all 3 of those guys are out there, as long as they're working hard on defense, 3 very competent ball handlers that know what to do to create for themselves or for others. So there's a lot to like, but it's just going to be, who's it going to be on any given night? And, there's guys that are going to be left behind on some games. Like Joe Bamsil was a no-show the entire tournament. That You got to make sure you keep them mentally sharp and engaged. Owe hasn't done much the last couple of weeks. It's just sort of a balancing act of you want to keep having success, keep having these wins, and trying to make sure that everyone is still locked in, knowing that maybe not every game you're getting your 15 to 20 minutes and a chance to really shine.
What does that mean for Bijan, though? I mean, he's a guy that has not had confidence consistently. But for him to go into the championship and just really do whatever he wanted to do, go into the rim, like that was impressive. I mean, it's not the most dominating way to score the ball. I mean, it's kind of like a granny shot almost. And both hands, it was crazy. But I mean, he does seem like a guy that now he feels like he has confidence to go into the lane. He's always kind of gone in the lane, but we know the pull up is there for when he wants it, and I mean, it just seems like this is something that Porter needed too from Bijan.
Yeah, and getting that concussion so close to the first game of the season obviously set him back in terms of how quickly he could be, into this offense. But the 10 points is nice. The 4 steals, I'm sure, is something Porter will talk about when we get a chance to meet with him Thursday. I mean, that's what you like to see. It can't just be on offense. It has to be on defense too. And that's what Bijan really brought to the table. And that was after Arkansas Pine Bluff, OU's first win of the season. Bijan doesn't play. Now you're going, okay, now where is this guy going? I think there's just going to be those ebbs and flows. Bijan's clearly going to get a chance Saturday in Philly against Wildcats. And if he doesn't bring it, Porter's going to go to someone else to try to find that production that's needed on that given night. And it's just going to be, you're going to have to roll with it. You're going to have to be okay with the fact that if you didn't have it that day, Porter didn't go to you, but that doesn't mean he's given up on you.
That was it seems like Sherfield's just a calming presence out there too. And especially on the offensive end, he's not going to give you what Jordan Goldwire gave you on the defensive end. I think that's obvious. But when they need a basket or when they just it seemed like, the last couple of years it's been so just kind of crazy when they needed a basket.
Yes.
Hectic. Yeah, that'd probably be the better way to say it. It seems like he's very calming out there.
And because he can really get to the hole instead of just dribbling 2 or 3 and taking a contested 15, 17-footer. He can get to the rim, finish, get fouled, or have that, what Porter loves to talk about, paint touch threes, where Grant gets into the paint, kicks it out for a wide open 3.
They could all distribute the ball too. Any of the guards that they have right
and
now,
I like
very
Bijan
good
a lot when he's been in the point.
Yeah, he's going to be really, really good.
Yeah, and he's already playing those final 5 minutes of crunch time. I don't think he's ever going to be a starter, but it's clear Porter trusts him when it counts the most. And that's why sometimes it doesn't matter about your starter, it matters about those final 5 minutes. Who are those guys that you want in there when it means the most?
Yeah, and they needed that because, people have watched OU basketball. You've seen a team like, okay, if Tanner Groves isn't hitting threes and then C.J. Nolan's not hitting threes and then Hill's not hitting threes, the ball just dies and then people don't make shots. Now it's moving a little bit. They've got some playmakers.
Jacob Groves has been the surprise too. Might have to walk back my Groves statements from the past, but I've not been a believer in Jacob. But if he can play like the way he has last 2 weeks, if you can count on that wouldn't be bad.
A little bit stronger. He added, he looks like he added just physicality in terms of mass. It seems like that has helped. We'll see when it gets to the Big 12 play, too. I mean, it's a different animal, but
it's amazing this team is a putback away from being undefeated.
Yeah. Well, I mean, they are going to the Final Four, so I don't know why anybody's surprised.
Where's it this year?
Houston.
Oh.
Back to Houston.
Minneapolis last year, right?
No, last year was in was it Minneapolis?
I thought
Indianapolis during COVID.
I thought that was 2 years ago.
Okay, that's the last time I remember Eddie just saying, get ready to book us to Minneapolis.
I don't remember. It was in Indianapolis again last year, wasn't it? No, that was 2021. 2022 Final Four would have been
COVID was all centralized.
Where were they? I don't know.
But this is a really nice month. You got Villanova, you got Arkansas, you got Florida. You've got chances to, again, build on that resume and make people forget what happened on the very first night of the season. Although, as Porter will bring up, Sam Houston has done incredibly well since.
New Orleans. That's exactly where they were.
Okay.
Villanova, Kansas, North Carolina, Duke.
All right. Yeah, though, good to see the Hoops team playing well. Eddie, you've got something?
Board of Regents stuff today.
Board of
Oh,
Regents.
yeah.
Just find out. I mean, if Joe Harris and Joe Castiglione do not talk, there's not going to be much to it. It's just going to be approved. Approved measures for football, for softball, for tennis, for
And this is just
Lloyd
adding
Noble.
them to the master plan. Like, it's
Yes.
not. That doesn't mean that dirt's going to start flying.
Exactly. It's, if hopefully Joe or Joe will talk with us. We never know until we get there, and sometimes we don't even know when we get there. We just find out like 15 minutes before, something came up in their schedule. They don't have any time.
And I would imagine, this is my guess. I don't know this. I guess I could go upstairs and ask somebody in Sooner Club. But I would imagine what this means is they approve that, and then they make that a part of everything else that they're doing right now, the big giving campaign that they've got, the $2 billion thing going on, which has baseball, which, softball is completed. But then they'll add this to football.
Yep.
And it's $175 million facility that will be an all-football facility, dining hall. And it's right there on the corner of Jenkins and Lindsay.
Now, is that going to include the idea that they're building the two
practice
fields? This is part of it.
Yes.
So they will be moving the track.
I would think so.
That's what's going to have to happen, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
You'd have two football fields right there.
Sure.
I don't know, maybe a grass and maybe a turf.
And that's something that they need. They don't it's kind of crazy to think that Oklahoma doesn't have a full-length practice field.
Yeah, and they lost it because of the south end zone.
Sure.
They have one, but they don't have two.
That's I think it's 75 yards over there.
The one's always been 100 that's up against the fence.
I don't think that's a 100-yard field.
Huh.
I don't know.
We might need to test it out. Let's run.
I'm pretty sure there was
Is it-
two 100s right next to each other.
Okay.
And the one that got shortened was the
The other one?
the closer one.
Okay.
Yeah, to the stadium.
I don't know. For some reason, I just feel like that's always not been a 100-yard field, but I have no idea.
You're the first person that made me question if it wasn't that I've ever
Maybe
met
it
in my
is.
life. So, no, but that's look. You're coming off.
Maybe
a
that's why
6
they can't finish drives. They've been going 75 yards the entire time.
We just do what we do in practice.
Yeah.
Well, no, it doesn't make any
practice
sense.
is 75
It doesn't
yards.
make any sense because their drives only last 50 seconds.
That's true, too. That's true.
No, but that will be, it'll be great. Hopefully they'll release some renderings. That would be really cool.
Yep. It'd be nice.
That will get people excited for sure because, this is kind of the Thad Turnip seed deal. Like, this is what he brought to the table. And, when they first came in, it almost seemed like sacrilege because they started talking about knocking down walls in the brand new South End Zone, the Barry Switzer Center. But now they'll have this facility. They'll be right across the street from Headington Hall. So it'll be more convenient for the players, and they'll do, be able to have their academic stuff in there. They'll be able to have dining hall, be able to training, all that. So it's going to be pretty cool to see it when they release it. All right, Josh, anything you wanted to get out there before we get out of here?
No, I think I've exhausted everybody with recruiting talk.
Hey, it's your time to shine. You shine.
And, of course, we'll find out the bowl on Sunday. You had to bring the team
Eddie
up.
and I figured it's no matter what bowl it is, it's on the same day. So it sounds like
Yeah, I think,
It sounds
unless they go to Russell Athletic.
Unless they go to
bullshit.
Cheez-Its. Yep.
no.
Cheez-It Bowl.
Yep.
But
I don't want to pay for that.
I just don't think that that's going to happen. I think it's going to be Texas, and the backup would be Liberty. I just don't know if it's going to get to Liberty.
TCU has to win. That's good. That's that would keep you if they win, it's better for OU's bowl hopes. If they lost, everybody would get knocked down.
Unless
I think.
TCU just stays in the playoff regardless of
Yeah,
win
that's
or
true.
lose.
I don't know if
They
it
just go to
matters,
4.
though. I don't know if it matters. Like,
Yep.
Because I think, I guess you're saying if TCU was bumped out of the playoff, they'd go to Sugar. Kansas State would go to Alamo. Or would both teams go to New Year's Six?
No, TCU would go to Sugar.
I think both teams would get a New Year's Six.
Or wait, is Sugar part of a part of the championship, the playoff?
I haven't looked at it in so long.
Haven't
I have no idea.
had to care.
Haven't had to care. Don't care.
Yeah, we didn't even know if there was going to be a bowl game.
It's basically going to come down to, does Russell Athletic want to take Oklahoma? You hope that they don't.
I hope not, yeah.
And I don't think the Texas Bowl is going to pass on Oklahoma if it's Like Texas isn't going to be available.
Yeah,
I mean, don't
you're
think
gonna have
that they'd want
Tech,
to take Baylor.
You're gonna have Tech, Baylor, Kansas, OSU, and OU. How's that all gonna fall?
Sure.
That's why the Athletic put out that they think OU will go to Florida because that's still the most attractive.
Yeah, and it
and the
very
Bulls
well
get
could.
to draft. I mean,
Yeah, and they're not locked into,
Right.
well, this
Standings.
team finished
Yeah.
fifth. We have
Yep.
to take them. So
Right.
it's completely up to them.
Yep. Oh, no one wants to go.
I still think they should practice
Get
for 2
COVID.
weeks and then get COVID, but that's just me.
So just say at the last minute we can't play in the bowl game.
We all have the chicken.
The Fiesta and the Peach are the 2 semis this year.
Okay.
But yeah, so because you had
So if they lost, they would go the sugar, and then everybody would.
unless I think TCU's locked into the playoff.
I think there's a chance that both teams could go to New Year's 6 if TCU were to lose. Kansas State and TCU.
So
is that large?
So
I
Kansas
think
State,
they would. I think they
Yeah.
have to.
Kansas State still goes to the sugar. Their
Texas
fans
goes
would,
Alamo.
travel.
TCU
and-
would end up at like the
Playing Georgia somewhere.
yeah. Well, probably at the Peach.
Yeah, exactly. In Atlanta.
Yeah,
so
because I think as long as TCU doesn't get run, they're
Yep.
in.
the problem is if you have Texas in the Alamo, then the next is the
Cheez-Its, and that's where
and
OU.
then you have OU, OSU,
Baylor,
Kansas,
Kansas,
Tech.
just a bunch of 7-5, 6-6 teams.
Guys, I mean, is there any way that those schools are that bowl that will never? I mean, has never had a chance at a school like OU is not going to take OU?
They took them in 2014. I remember talking to their reps at game night, and they're like, "We can't believe no one's here."
Yeah.
And I tried to. I was kind of actually a dick about it. I don't know why. I guess I was just mad because of that week. I was like, well, you got to remember, like OU thought they'd be going for college football playoff, and so they fell to this. Like fans aren't excited about this, and then they walked away from me.
You said
OU
that?
is
You said
embarrassed
that
to
to
be at
bowl
your bowl
reps?
game.
I said that to a bowl rep. I was
Oh
just
my God,
mad
Bob.
about
You
that
have
week.
no filter, man.
I was like, this. Like,
Where was this at?
This was when OU
Russell
played
Athletic,
Clemson.
when they lost 40-6,
Wow.
Bob was working at ESPN then.
and they were just.
I've never been more proud of Bob than in this.
They're just
moment.
like, why aren't more people here? It's like, OU thought after beating Bama in the Sugar Bowl that they were going to college football playoff.
Yeah, that Trevor Knight was going to win the Heisman.
And instead, they're 8-4, and they fell into this spot. There's just not a lot of excitement.
I retract my statement. I hope OU does play in the Russell Athletic Bowl, and they're the ones that greet you, and you have to tell them that this is a 6-6 team,
Not even 8-4.
and this situation's even worse.
yeah, you gotta think that the Cheez-It Bowl realizes that OU fans aren't coming. Because
I would imagine.
here's
They just see the helmet. They just see the helmet.
Yeah, they see that, but
I don't
it's
think
the
they care
most
either.
expensive place to go to on earth, and it's a shitty bowl game. Like,
Yeah.
why do you want to go to? Nobody wants to go to that. We don't want to go to that.
No. No.
I let you stay home last time when I went.
I didn't even go, yeah.
Deathly ill.
I wonder if who has
I
been,
already have to go to that shithole.
I know Josh has to go there all the time.
Oh, for Under Armour?
Oh,
Yeah, that Under Armour list
yeah.
is impressive.
I was making those travel plans last night.
And you've already been there, what, once or twice this year?
Yes. Orlando, we have a hate relationship. It keeps dragging me back, and I hate it more every time.
Yeah. Oh. All right. Well, yes, we will find out the bowl game. If it's, I don't know. We're not going to have an emergency pod for the Cheez-It or the Texas Bowl. Or
Maybe we should.
I think we should.
I don't. Will
if
we
it's
still?
the Cheez-It, we might have to just have a frustration pod.
Will we have the
frustration pod?
conference call with the coach, and hopefully no one's in a helicopter or something?
bowl was
I know that
I
it's
don't
like
remember.
it's such a slap in the face, but I would be somewhat, I don't know about excited. I don't know if that's the word, but OU Arkansas in the Texas Bowl, that'd be
Yup.
kind of fun.
Yeah, I'd like that.
2 6-6 teams. Okay.
What
Sign
if
me up.
What if Clemson lost to the Heels and it's Clemson OU and the Cheez-Its?
Oh,
Yeah,
fuck
that'd be
that.
Oh,
No.
good God.
sorry.
I don't want to watch DJU in person or on TV.
I don't
all
know.
right?
That offense
Hey,
is terrible.
OU would
They
have
might
the
have a
is
best quarterback
chance.
terrible.
on the field.
That's true.
That's Dillon Gabriel's
Well,
stomping ground.
although
man.
you know what would happen, Josh? They would play Clemson. DJ enters the portal and Cade Klubnik would
Cade
throw for
comes in.
550
Yeah.
against this secondary.
Oh God.
That'd be fun too.
What if Dillon Gabriel just opted out too? Like,
That'd be fun.
Playing Dabo. First year.
Davis Bevel running the offense against that Clemson defensive line.
well, we already know Eric Gray's opting out at that point.
Yeah, I would be like, opt, Eric. I'll make a public campaign to save his career.
Yeah, that's what I worried about is a domino effect. Like, Eric announces. And
I mean, Anton, Eric.
Marcus,
I think Eric Gray
Marvin
and
Mims.
Anton Harrison are two guys that you say, yeah. I would be very surprised if you saw them in an Oklahoma
It's
uniform
hard to
again.
think of anyone else where it makes sense.
Did Theo say he's not going to the bowl?
I imagine with him entering the portal, he's gone.
Yeah.
Has anybody played after going into the portal?
I don't think so.
I don't think that's a thing, is
Yeah.
it?
I don't think so. Like once you're in, you're in.
Yeah.
It would now the interesting names that are going to be out there are just names that we don't know about yet. Like I don't know. I guess this is like a halfway educated guess. I kind of think Marvin Mims comes back. We'll see.
I've heard some stuff that makes me wonder as well, Eddie.
I think that they're going to put together a nice package for him. Obviously he hasn't done enough.
I think
I
he
just
has
don't-
done enough to go NFL.
I
just don't know.
I just don't like size-wise.
But I don't know if
there's
that's
other
ever going
guys.
to change.
No, that's true. That's true. But if he puts together if he's like a Biletnikoff semifinalist next year, I think that automatically just begins. I don't know. Maybe it doesn't change the scout's mind. I have no idea. Maybe I want to believe that more than anything.
We did appreciate him just saying flat out he's playing in the bowl game.
Yeah.
And, he didn't tiptoe around it.
Well, Dillon hasn't opted out yet, so. Speculation, not
They should-
report.
They should start Ralph Rucker. If that,
I want
if
to
that's
see
what
it. I just
happens.
want to see anybody but Dave Spevel.
There was a part of me
I want
as
the
he
fans
trots
to
out
be
onto
able
the
to
field in
see
Lubbock
that.
was like, this is going to be awesome.
The greatest
He's gonna-
redemption story
He's going to
of
have a
all time.
redemption, and then
he runs over to the sideline and they do well.
he ran right to the sideline. I was like, well, shit. All right. Never
All
mind.
right. We're good.
I saw it. My first thought was seeing it on TV. I was like, oh, God, I don't want to see this shit. And then thank God they ran the Wildcat.
And, Marvin Mims' situation might be contingent upon what happens at wide receiver coach. Like, that's another
Yes.
Yeah.
element that I think we all kind of agree something's going to happen there.
What was it that I'm trying to think of? Because I know a lot of people bring up Malcolm Kelly, but there's something there with Malcolm Kelly. I can't remember what it is. I mean, maybe it's just it might be the Kale thing with Malcolm. I don't know. I mean, I can't believe Kale wasn't really close to, or Malcolm was closest with Sumlin. He wasn't really as close to Kale.
Yeah, Kale's running backs at that point.
I mean,
correct? Yeah.
the most logical one is does Brent Venables and their relationship with Jeff Scott have anything to do with, he got fired at South Florida. I just don't know. Like, I have no idea. Obviously, the stuff was out there with samples people have talked about. Who knows?
Another week. Speculation.
All right. Well, I think we're out of steam, so we'll go ahead and end it there. Appreciate all you guys listening. SoonerScoopStore.com's open. Get your orders in, and we'll get it to you before Christmas. We probably got a couple weeks that we can get those out to you in a hurry. And U.S. mail goes really fast, too, by the way. So, I mean, stuff gets to you in 3 or 4 days. But the earlier you order, the better, because those packages are going to start backing up for the post office. So, SoonerScoopStore.com. Appreciate your support always, but we're still stocked on official 40 retro helmets and wagons and hats and all that stuff. So go online, check it out. If you see something you like, we appreciate you supporting the pod. So thanks for listening. We'll be back once again next week for another edition of the unofficial 40 podcast from Soonerscoop.com.